All right, welcome in everyone. Diving right in today. We're looking at how we express joy and sometimes maybe why we don't.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? And we've got some great excerpts here from The Nature of Expressed Joy by Mehmet Murat Ilden to help us explore.
Perfect. So before we get too far, maybe just a quick definition for everyone.
Sure. The word of the day today is effusive. Basically, think about it like this. It's when you just can't contain your emotions, your enthusiasm. It just bubbles over.
Love it. Okay, so think about this, right? Have you ever noticed how, like, some people you meet, their joy is just like so obvious, so out there.
Right.
But then there are others who are like way more reserved.
Absolutely.
What makes us feel comfortable sharing or maybe makes us want to hold back? That's our deep dive today.
Yeah, and Ildan starts by talking about how showing real, genuine joy kind of makes you vulnerable.
It does, doesn't it? You're putting yourself out there.
Exactly. And he talks about how when you really feel that joy, it's precious. It's almost sacred.
I like that. Sacred.
But because it means so much, because it's so important to us, it can also make us feel exposed. Like if that joy gets, I don't know, diminished or taken away, that hurts.
It's a risk.
It is. And it's interesting to think about how, even just societal norms, they often discourage us from being too openly joyful.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like we're conditioned to be cautious.
Right. So knowing that expressing joy can be kind of risky, how do you usually approach sharing your joy with others?
That's a good question.
Well, Ilden uses this interesting term, joy breadcrumbs.
Joy breadcrumbs. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
So imagine it like this. You're meeting someone new. You're not just going to spill your joy out at once, right?
Definitely not.
So you start with these little bits, these little expressions of your enthusiasm, kind of testing the waters, seeing what they respond to.
So it's like you're seeing if it's safe to share more.
Exactly. And honestly, those initial interactions, they can sometimes feel a bit, Ilden even says boring.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You're both kind of feeling each other out.
But, and this is important, boring doesn't mean bad in this case. It's more about taking your time, revealing yourself gradually, looking for that common ground.
So do you think there's like a risk of being too cautious with our joy?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point.
Like, could people mistake that cautiousness for, just not being interested?
Totally. You're dropping those breadcrumbs, hoping the other person picks up on them.
Yeah. Okay, so what happens when you do find that connection? When you hit on those shared interests, or like Ilden puts it, those similar vibes?
Things change.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it gets exciting.
I was just going to say, it's like the energy shifts.
Yes. Suddenly there are all these paths you can explore. Conversation just flows.
It reminds me of this one time I was talking to this person, and honestly, it was just painful.
Oh, no.
Like, we just weren't clicking, but then we found out we both loved this super obscure band, and like everything changed. It was like, bam, connection.
I love that. And Ilden describes this so well. He says, people seem boring to one another because they are not well understood.
Yeah.
It's like you're both, as he puts it, sloshing through a mire, trying to find something to connect to.
And I've definitely been there. Like, sometimes you just feel like you're talking different languages.
Which makes me wonder, how often do you really truly try to understand someone else's perspective? What makes them tick?
That's a good question. Maybe not often enough.
Because if you don't, you're stuck in that mire. It's hard to connect. And yeah, it can feel boring, but when you do understand each other, when you get past that mire,
That's when the magic happens.
and Ilden has this beautiful analogy for that, the waterfall.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that.
So picture this, two minds that truly understand each other. It's like opening up this floodgate. The words, the thoughts, they flow so powerfully, and Ilden calls it creating rainbows of joy.
That's so poetic.
Isn't it? And then there's this feeling of being so in sync that your ideas start building on each other effortlessly.
Creating something new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he calls that the harmonized song of thoughts. It's powerful, it's harmonious, and from that, all these new, bold, crazy ideas can emerge.
Which, kind of brings us back to why we love waterfalls in the first place, right?
Yeah.
The power, the rainbows, the sound, the boldness, a little bit of craziness.
It all comes together. So to sum it all up, expressing joy, it can feel risky because it makes us vulnerable.
Right.
So we often start slow. We share gradually with those joy breadcrumbs, building trust.
Testing waters.
Exactly. And real connection, that excitement, it comes from being understood, from that deep understanding that unlocks this amazing exchange of ideas. It's like that waterfall moment.
I love that. So, as we wrap things up, think about this. What joy breadcrumbs are you leaving in your interactions? What potential waterfalls could you be creating?
And what's one small thing you can do today to share your genuine enthusiasm, maybe just a little more freely?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.